springtime, we really like to grow a lot of radishes in our garden. They really like the cooler temperatures of spring. They grow super quickly. Most of them take just about a month before they're ready to harvest, and they're really nice to tuck in between lots of other plants because they mature so quickly and you can pull them out before those other plants get larger. Before we grew radishes, we didn't really eat too many of them, but now that we grow them, we figured out some recipes that we really like to use them in, so today we're going to be sharing some of those. We're going to be starting with the easiest recipe first, and it is a radish toast with an herbed cream cheese. So first we're going to begin by thinly slicing our radishes. These radishes are a little on the small side, but if you have larger ones, then those work too, and it makes it a little prettier to have those bigger slices on the toast, but these small ones will work just fine as well. Once all the radishes are sliced up, I'm just going to set those aside for a second, and I'm going to go outside to the garden and pick some herbs for an herbed cream cheese. First, I'm starting off with these garlic chives. These are flatter than normal chives and have a slightly more garlicky flavor, as the name would suggest. But if you have normal chives, that works great as well. I'm also going to be picking some dill because we have so much looking so beautiful right now, so I just need a few sprigs of that. You can really pick any kind of tender herb that you have in your garden. Parsley or mint would work great for this recipe as well. And we also have this celery that is not quite ready to harvest, but the leaves look really good, and I'm just going to pick a little sprig of that to use kind of like an herb as well. After I have all of my herbs picked, I'm just going to finely chop those up. And then I have a little bit of softened cream cheese here. And I'm just going to add the herbs in and just mix them around in that cream cheese until everything is all combined. And then you have a super easy herbed cream cheese that you can use on toast or on bagels. It's a really quick way to dress up any recipe while using some herbs from your garden. So we have some sourdough toast here that I'm going to spread the cream cheese on. You don't have to use sourdough, but that's what we usually have in the house, so that's what we're using. You could also use a baguette or whatever bread you have. And after I spread the cream cheese on, I'm just going to lay the radish slices out. You can make this as pretty as you want and organize them really nicely overlapping, or you can kind of just toss them on top. Like I mentioned, if you have bigger slices, this does make the job a little easier because you're not dealing with all of these tiny little pieces. But either way works. And once you have those all laid out, just sprinkle them with some flaky salt and some freshly cracked black pepper. I'm also going to garnish these with a few more dill sprigs just to make it really pretty, and that is the recipe. It's not really so much of a recipe as just an inspiration idea because this is so easy to make, and you can really alter this to your taste, change up the bread, use different herbs. But this is probably one of the ways we eat radishes the most just because it is so simple and quick, and you can have it on the side of any meal. The next recipe is a radish slaw, similar to a quick pickled radish. So again, we're going to slice some radishes thinly. This time the radishes are a lot bigger and they look so beautiful. A little trick when you're slicing is to just slice off one side of the radish, then you can turn it over onto that cut side so that the radish doesn't roll around and you have that flat surface keeping it stable, and then keep slicing once you have that stable surface. I've also thinly sliced some red onions, and I'm going to combine the radishes and red onions in the same bowl. You don't have to do the onions if you don't want to, but I think that it adds a really good flavor for this slaw. Then I am going to juice half of a lime in here. The lime acts as the acid that makes this taste a little bit like a pickle. If you don't have fresh citrus, you can just use white vinegar and then it'll taste more like a quick pickle. But we prefer to use lime juice, especially for how we're going to use this today, which I'll show you. I'm just using half a lime since I have sort of a small portion here. If you have a bigger portion, you can use a full lime. And I also put in some salt, and I'm just going to mix that around. The lime juice and the salt are going to work together to soften the radishes and the onions. The acidity is going to mellow out some of that sharp onion flavor, and pretty immediately you'll see that the colors of the radishes and onions start to bleed a little bit and create this really beautiful neon color. I also have some fresh cilantro from the garden that I'm going to use. This is optional. If you don't like cilantro, you can leave it out. You could also add some green onions if you want instead. We're going to be having this slaw on top of tacos, so I think that cilantro flavor plays really well with that. And this will just give it a really nice fresh color as well. And I'm just going to add that in and mix it up again. And typically you want to do this before you have the rest of your meals. So I always like to make the slaw first and then put this aside and let it sit in the fridge for 30 minutes to an hour while I prepare the rest of the meal. And the citrus will really do its work to slightly pickle those ingredients. We really love having this on tacos. It makes a really bright, fresh, and cold element to our tacos. And then for any extras that we have, we like to just have it on the side, kind of like a side salad for any other meal that we're having. For the final recipe, we are going to be making some roasted radishes. This is a really good recipe if you have radishes that are more towards the end of the season that are larger and spicier, because once it gets hotter, the peppery, spicy flavor of the radishes is going to get more pronounced. And if you don't like that flavor raw, then this is a perfect way to mellow out that flavor. So we're just going to clean up the radishes by cutting off the tops and bottoms. I also have a couple of these Japanese white turnips that I'm going to throw in as well. You can throw in any kind of root vegetable that you have to bulk this up, whatever you have on hand. Some other things that would be really good with this are carrots or beets, maybe some potatoes or sweet potatoes. You just want to make sure that everything is cut to a similar size so that they can cook at the same rate. I'm going to leave these radishes whole, but if you have really large ones, or for the turnips, I cut them in half or even quarter them. I also threw on a couple of unpeeled cloves of garlic on there. I'm going to toss this with some olive oil, salt and pepper, and shake it up. I also like to make sure that if any vegetables are cut, that the cut side is facing down onto the metal sheet pan so that it has maximum contact and it will brown really nicely that way. And we're going to bake this in the oven at 425 degrees for about 30 minutes. What you want is for the skins to start getting this really beautiful brown roasted color, and you'll see that the skins of the radishes will wrinkle up. You should be able to pierce them very easily with a fork. I also pulled out those garlic cloves that have been roasting in there, and the insides are all nice and soft and gooey now. And similar to the radishes, the flavor of the garlic will really mellow out a lot, and this is going to be a really good addition to make a roasted garlic mayo to dip our radishes in. So I just scoop out the innards of the garlic and then add some mayo and mix that up. It's super easy. We really love eating radishes this way. We can go through so many. The flavor gets really sweet and mellow. I love how creamy they get when you roast them for a long time. And this is just a really good recipe if you have lots of radishes to go through. I hope these recipes gave you guys some ideas for how to use radishes, whether you're growing them in your garden or you found them at a farmer's market or the store. Let me know if you try any of these, and we will see you again in the next video.